In order to be a thing, you need to see that thing.
The Bears are truly that force that unites everybody in Chicago.
There's no question that the Chicago Bears have a legendary history between all of the black players, the coaches, the leaders in this building, the fans. But when you think of the black athletes over the years that have put on a Bears uniform, what is the most impactful or memorable moment on the field that jumps out at you?
I wish we had a buzzer.
I know there's a lot to choose from. We are spoiled rotten
I
here.
would have hit the buzzer.
You want to start?
Sure, I'll lead off. Without a doubt, in my mind, when Walter Payton broke the all-time rushing record.
Our formation, quick pitch to Walter, looking for the record, cuts back, he's got it! He's got it at the 25 and the 26-yard line. Walter Payton becomes the National Football League all-time leading rushers and passing.
Stop the game, make sure they got the football so that it could go off to the Hall of Fame. And just the high fives and the hugs and everything that went with that. That was just a tremendous, it was building, and then boom, broke through the dam and got it done. I just think that was a special moment.
Did the cheers just continue the whole time the game was stopped?
I didn't even hear them. I was just locked on Walter and just the joy, and the joy in his teammates, and he celebrated. Walter didn't really spike a lot of footballs when he scored touchdowns. He would hand them off to his linemen because they're the guys that open the holes for him to run through.
It was such a historic moment, and the rest of Chicago is going to feel the balloon lose its air. But in the Super Bowl in '06, we're all hyped up because it's the first time it's two African-American head coaches facing each other during a time where black men were not often considered to be head coaches. And then the first play of the game, they kicked the ball to Devin Hester.
It sails to the far side around the 8-yard line to Hester. Under it, and to the middle at the 15, to the 20, breaks free of the 25, to the 30, to the outside, 40, midfield, 30 of the coach, 20.
Y'all thought that Tony Dungy was psycho for even kicking the ball to him. And so when you saw it, like, oh, they're kicking it to him? And then he got it and he scored a touchdown. I will never forget where I was and what I was doing when that happened.
20 years later, I mean, it still feels, that moment still looms just as large, I feel like, as it did.
You didn't have to say it was 20 years ago.
I mean, a couple of years ago.
Still fresh in your mind, huh? But yeah.
I believe Devin still got it if he wants it.
For sure.
He could beat me in the race right now. I know that's a fact. Seeing him make something out of nothing every week was just super memorable. But I can't not mention this season. I mean, pick a moment from Caleb, whether it's DJ Moore for the win against the Packers, whether it's Caleb to Cole Kmet to tie that game in the divisional round.
Williams drifting, sprinting for space, in all kinds of trouble, put it up for grabs in the end zone. Kmet! He got it! For the touchdown! They've done it again!
I would say that Caleb throw to DJ Moore against the Packers, I mean, the rivalry, the moment, it couldn't have been scripted better.
Going deep, searching for DJ Moore, over the shoulder, catch made, touchdown Bears! It's over at Soldier Field!
I still have, every time I watch it, I'm like, how did that happen? It felt very divine in a way.
It was divine because Father Michael Flager from St. Sabina was there, and he said he prayed for us before he threw the pass.
Thank you, Father.
What I love about that moment, he makes the throw and he turns and tucks his hands in his hand warmer. And then he's looking and he sees that it's a touchdown, and then he does the Iceman.
The Iceman cometh! The Iceman taketh! A 40.
Dilla, how do you feel like black players at the Bears over the years have really impacted Chicago culturally?
That's a really dope question. I justify that by how much do you see them outside of Soldier Field or outside of Halas Hall, or even when they were slumming it in Bourbonnais. People like Richard Dent, right? He was a person that could be seen in Chicago. You could touch him. People like Willie Gaul. They've been very impactful, not just on the field, but how they connect with the people outside of the game.
I think that 85 team did that part so well of you knew them for their plays and how they were winning and how phenomenal they were at the game, but also they were pretty much everywhere, whether it's Super Bowl Shuffle or just in the city. So I think that that's cool that our players, I think the newer players that become Bears know that and they've seen that. And even with this year's success, they are starting to see, like, hey, you can do all you want on the field, but it's not until you're in the streets, it's not until you're in the city, it's not until you're meeting these people for your name to really hit that like legendary status.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a great example of that is my friend and frat brother, Spice Adams. You know, he may not have, you know, won all the trophies, right? And particularly the position he played as a Bear is a very thankless position, right? It's not going to have you on ESPN and in the top 10 plays all the time. But you can't go anywhere in Chicago and not run into Spice Adams, right? And during times where we're not the happiest group of Chicagoans with whatever the record may be, Spice still brings that Bear spirit around it. And also Matt Forte. I see Matt Forte all the time. I was in a hoagie shop on 35th Street. And I was like, that guy's shoulders are way too big to not be a Bear. And then he turns around, it's Matt Forte, right? And I would say that that's a thing that starts at the top.
No, I think Bears players have always had a big impact on the community. Especially, I mean, we talk about somebody like Walter Payton. How did the thought to honor him with a statue come to be? And I mean, in a city like Chicago where there's so many statues with historical meaning, you know, what does that statue represent for the organization?
I think it represents excellence that Walter personified on and off the field. There's so many things that are named for Walter. For example, our Payton Center here, you know, and then we decided, well, this building is in name only. You know, what can we do to give this more personality? So, you know, there's some very large photo montages of Walter. There's a lot of memorabilia from Walter that his family was generous to share with us. So that was in a way to honor him and allow players, coaches that come after Walter to actually see his helmet that he wore or shoulder pads that he wore, different things that are related to his excellence on the field. The Walter Payton Award, which is given, you know, Man of the Year award, given to a member of each of the 32 teams, and then there's a single winner at the end of the year. That'll come out later this week at NFL Honors. And just each player on each team to be honored and their name is associated with Walter in the same sentence. You know, that's truly an honor. And then, you know, certainly there's money given to their particular charity. So it's players that are out in the community, they're being recognized and honored in Walter's name.
Yeah, that 85 Bears team, they brought a Lombardi trophy to the city. You know, I was at the divisional game where Mike Singletary came out and waved the Bears flag. Very fortunate to be at that. It was my first Bears playoff game in my lifetime. The way those guys connected to the city, they connected the city and the organization in a deeper way. It's just, how were they able to do that?
I think first and foremost, it was their style of play, aggressive, tough. You know, they put a chip on their shoulders. So I think that spirit, you know, fans identified with that. These guys all had such big personalities individually, you know, off the field. Mike was more, you know, Samurai Mike, Singletary, more stoic, you know, quiet, but everybody remembers the big hit he put on, you know, Eric Dickerson in the NFC Championship, you know, against the Rams. That's like the epitome of
I don't
Mike
remember it because
Singletary.
I wasn't there.
I do. I was 25 a long time ago, but you know, he would hit people. So he wore contact lenses on the field, and he wore glasses off the field. But he would hit people so hard, you know, it's impossible when you're running into something not to blink. And he would blink so hard because he was hitting somebody so hard. He would blink, and his contacts would literally pop out. So we had to have extra contacts on the sideline, and putting in contacts in cold weather is not easy. And of course, he had gloves and tape and everything on it, so he couldn't do it. So our trainer, head trainer, Fred Cato, was the one that was behind that. So
That might be the coolest Black History fact I've heard in a long time, that the man in sub-zero temperatures and snow was on the sideline. Not with his own hand, with somebody else. First of all, the amount of trust you got to have. But that also shows how fearless he is, because you're not going to hold my eye open and touch it and I don't have a reaction. That's insane.
If I can ask somebody who was actually there just about the audacity of it all in the first place, right? Like a Super Bowl shuffle before you won the Super Bowl, going into the playoffs or whenever it may be. What was your reaction to it? You're in the family, you're in the organization. Were you like, these guys are crazy, or are you like, this is crazy confident? Like, what was your reaction?
My first reaction was like, oh no, oh no, what have we done here? So it was, because I think that was filmed in October.
Oh.
Maybe early November. I mean,
Still
the season was
halfway through.
I want to say it was filmed the day after we lost the 13th game of the season, which was, we all know, against the Miami Dolphins, where just everything, the ball bounced wrong, crazy interception and crazy receptions, and
Dan Marino.
It just, where the ball goes off a guy's helmet and he still catches it, it's just crazy. But that, I think it was filmed the next day. So that would have, 13th game of the year out of a 16-game season, that would have put us probably late November, early December when that was filmed. So it's, I think it turned up the pressure a little bit on everybody, whether it was coaches, players, staff, but it definitely turned up the heat.
I felt very comfortable and very confident that Lovie is the leader we need and the person that's going to take us to the next level. So without saying any more, I want to introduce the next head coach of the Chicago Bears, Lovie Smith.
Although I wasn't there to witness it, the team that I was alive to witness was the 06 Bears, that Lovie Smith Bears era. Around that time, I'm like 11, 12 years old, and as a young kid, that's kind of the age where you become the fan and you start to fall in love with football, and I'm playing football at the time. Lovie Smith, along with Tony Dungy that year, being the first black coach to lead teams to a Super Bowl. Of course, black history was going to be made that day regardless, with the black coach winning. But just talk about that era and some things that, I don't know, you guys remember from that era.
I would say, a genuine friendship between Dungy and Smith was a really cool part of that experience.
You were in Chicago in that 2006?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk to me as someone who was not in Chicago and just feeling how electric the city is now with the black quarterback? I can't imagine how that felt with the black head coach. Did you feel it in the city that people almost backed him more, at least felt so much pride in him? Not only you would be excited to go to the Super Bowl regardless, but was the city aware of what they were witnessing?
We were more than aware. We were very proud that we were a part of this history that was going on between Chicago and Indianapolis. And again, it just wasn't a thing, right? People didn't give black head coaches a chance, right? At best, you might be a positions coach. And so we weren't just proud as Chicagoans because Lovie Smith was black. We were proud as Chicagoans because the Bears hired the best guy who happened to be black. And so there was an excitement. And then, of course, during that era, that was the Devin Hester era. And my God, at any kickoff, most of the time kickoffs are when you go refill your nachos or when you go get some dip or when you go pour another beer.
Bathroom break.
With Devin Hester, kickoffs were a time that you ran to the television.
You want to talk about overlooked, taken in the second round of the draft, 57th overall pick. The Bears take a chance on him. He's kind of like a tweener. He's not an offensive guy. He's not a real good defensive guy, but he's special. And the Bears take a chance on him. And when you give black boys a chance to shine, if you give them a platform and an opportunity, you get magic. And that's what we saw in Devin Hester, who was taken and overlooked all the way to the second round and became a Hall of Famer. So
I think it's cool. I've been with the club for 2 seasons, and I've done a handful of interviews with rookies, whether last year or this year. I think every rookie tells me like they fell in love by watching Devin Hester highlights, or they wanted to be a special teamer because of Devin Hester, and they wanted to be as fast as Devin. And then they always say, coming here, whether it's offense or defense, like they both say, I loved the Bears because of Devin Hester, and even if they didn't love the Bears, they still watched because of Devin Hester. So I think it's so cool that he was able to sort of cement a legacy that a lot of people didn't have. You weren't, as you said, special teams wasn't the flashiest. It wasn't the thing that people were known for. So I think it's cool that he not only has a legacy, but also continues to inspire people that, I was 5 in 2006. Like, these rookies were barely even alive then, but because of YouTube and highlights and all these things, Devin Hester is inspiring. I'm sure there are 10-year-olds now watching Devin Hester for the first time on YouTube being like, oh my gosh, I want to play for the Bears and I also want to be on special teams, which I think is so rare. but it was cool that the Bears kind of got to have that lightning in the bottle moment with him.
You can always tell a person's impact when they change the game and they change the rules, right? Kickoffs got changed because of Devin Hester. He reminds me a lot of Steph Curry in the way that he affected the game. And you always know you have an amazing and huge effect on the professional game when all the high school coaches can't stand you because of Stephen Curry, everybody crosses half court and heaves a three, and because and because of Devin Hester, and again, as the resident old dude sitting at the table, I was still going and checking out high school ball, and plenty of times when somebody should have just took the knee and no, they watch a Devin Hester, they're going to try to run back every kick that they can, rather than not, it was an opportunity to do so. But those type of things let you know that you're going to leave a lasting legacy. And it ain't every day that a kickoff return player makes it into the NFL Hall of Fame, and so that is some amazing black history.
The first returner to ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame as a return man. The only and the first.
And probably will be the last. You know, that's going to be his legacy. And I remember watching it, you know, live and in person. And then just the other day, a highlight reel popped up, and it was the 19 or 20 or 21, I don't remember how many TDs he had. And it was one after the other. And you see them all boxed in, and all of a sudden there's just a seam like this big. And he shot through it. And you're like, how did he do that? So when you see it on film, and now you have that perspective, and you realize you're never going to see anybody like that.
I want to shift, though, as a older person, and I've talked to many members of your family and understand you guys are very close-knit, and so I know that you were close with your grandpa, right, the founder of this team. Today, there's a lot looking back of history. There was a period in time when the NFL didn't have any black players. But during that time, your grandpa was the only leader of an NFL team to give black players a shot. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but in 1938, there was this thing called the Negro Collegiate All-Stars, and they were basically an all-star team of HBCU players. And so, in trying to break into the NFL, they challenged all the NFL teams to a game, and everybody said no, except George Halas. And he played the Negro All-Stars at Soldier Field. The Bears wasn't even playing at Soldier Field then. They were still playing at Wrigley, but he figured out a way and got them in Soldier Field so that more people can come. And I'd imagine that, you know, a lot of future athletes, particularly here in Chicago, seeing that opportunity, seeing black men line up against NFL players was very inspiring. Was that the temperament of your grandpa? I mean, the Bears stomped him 51-0, but he gave him the opportunity. Would you say that was the temperament of your grandpa, George Halas?
I think he was very open-minded. You know, look at Gale Sayers in the 60s, first-round draft pick, became a star. The shortest career that led to the Hall of Fame of any player in history. On top of that, my father, Ed McCaskey, coming up with the idea of let's room players by position, and that means Brian Piccolo meets Gale Sayers, and we know what happened with that, with the movie, with Brian's song, and everything else that went after that. And I just think that was a moment in history as well. And Gale Sayers scoring 6 touchdowns against the San Francisco 49ers on a very rainy, muddy day at Wrigley Field.
The quick move of Gale Sayers. He's off 85 yards for a touchdown. His 6th touchdown of the game. He has just broken the National Football League touchdown record for 1 year.
Field, and could have easily scored a 7th, but my grandfather held him back. He said he had a premonition that he was going to get hurt. And ironically enough, a few years later, against the same team, on the same field, he did have a devastating knee injury against the 49ers.
I mean, when we talk about the Bears being progressive, we could even take it even further to Willie Thrower, who was...
That's the name I was going to bring up.
Yeah, you know...
that's the name I thought you were going to bring up.
Could you, I mean, add some context to Willie Thrower, who he was and why he's important?
My understanding, you know, reading up on it a little bit, first black quarterback to have a chance to play in the NFL. I think that was a special moment. And of course, the name Thrower as a quarterback is kind of perfect, but we all know back at that period of time that it wasn't nearly what it was as far as today with the amount of offense and throwing the ball. It was more of a running game.
Yeah.
I think what's so cool about Black History and Black History Month and having conversations, it's that we can talk about names that were the first, and also we're in the building with people that are gonna make history as well. And I wanna just talk more about Ryan Poles as well, because I love his story. Ryan Poles played at Boston College, actually came for training camp to the Chicago Bears, didn't make the 53-man roster, and I actually just recently was looking through pictures and saw the pictures of him from training camp here all those years ago, and it just really inspired me to see that, you know, when he was told no here, he didn't give up. He then went back to Boston College, ended up being a GA, then obviously led to him being the general manager here, and now we can talk about a league that didn't have almost any black people in it to now a league that has majority black players. Yeah. Well, I have a question for you now, putting you on the spot. We at the Chicago Bears have a young black quarterback leading the charge, and not only that, but a black man that paints his nails and drinks matcha and has the whole city painting their nails and drinking matcha.
I almost painted mine.
Exactly. And have you thought about that before, Caleb Williams?
So I'm a girl dad, so yes, in that instance, but as soon as they walk away from me, I'm like, I gotta get it off right. And Caleb Williams certainly has changed how I feel about machismo or masculinity, right? Because I think following this young man's lead, the most masculine thing you can do on earth is be yourself. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that Brother Caleb Williams, and via Caleb Cares and Bears Cares, has taken like people who couldn't dream of seeing a Bears game for whatever reasons, right? You know, there's life be life, and as we like to say. But he got here to Chicago, and you know, at least like I'm undercutting it. Probably like 200 kids across the South and West Side, primarily kids of color, have not only gone down to the Bears game, but sometimes they get a chance to dap him up. And what does that inspiration, do for young people? So, we're hoping that he's going to be here for many years to come. But while he's here, he's certainly a fantastic addition to Chicago, and certainly a part of Bears history and Bears Black history.
Caleb Williams is a rock star. And, I wrote a piece not too long ago that just basically says the Bears are the coolest team on earth right now, and it's led by the Iceman. This dude, he's definitely pushing the boundaries of what we thought black masculinity could be. And we about to stand in solidarity with Caleb. I was about to get my pinky done, with Bears orange, but he's a rock star. And I feel like that's part of the mentality of the team, whether it's Caleb and, his matcha and his headphones, or if it's Rome Odunze wearing his afro out, or if it's, from the celebrations in the end zone, from the different players. This team has reflected black culture in a way that is special, whether it's the Chicago Juke remix, and the Bears social media has been on fire too. It's like they ran right with it and just kind of embraced black culture in a way that is really taking the world by storm.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it was blue and orange. The city is painted blue and orange. The buildings were illuminated on the exterior, blue and orange, and we saw that this past couple weeks with our playoff games. And it was beautiful shots of the city, and I think Chicago did itself proud, showing up and showing out for it.
It has been really cool that even the rookies are saying this season is for Virginia, and everything franchise-wise has very much been for her. So happy that we were able to have some success with her looking down. You mentioned DJ Moore. He was the Bears' Walter Payton Man of the Year. He has said that nomination has meant the most of his career. That is the best accolade that he's had this career. It's funny, I was talking to Rome recently, and we were talking about how at the beginning of the season, Rome was in some conversations where no Bears player has scored in the first 3 games other than Walter Payton, or Kyle Monangai will be in conversations where it'll be no Bear has rushed for this many yards in a game other than Walter Payton. And they all are so honored to be in the same sentence as him, but they still go back to being the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year. That's what it's all about. Outside of maybe a Lombardi trophy, that's what all these players are striving for. How cool is it for you to see and hear that from players, and also them know that means a little bit more to being within these walls.
On occasion, when I'm speaking somewhere, people will often ask, who's your favorite player of all time? And that's a tough question to answer. But I think the easy answer is to say Walter Payton. And what the impact he's had on the Bears, his impact he's had on the league, his impact that he's had on the community. And I think everybody, that I encountered certainly had a Walter Payton story or a memory after he passed, and they were very willing and open to share that, and I think that meant a lot to people.
We talk about how Caleb Williams is pushing the envelope, and I think that it would be easier maybe sometimes to ignore it, or as a club not feed into it, or say like, hey, he's here to play football, that's it. But what I think is so cool about the Bears is they see the uniqueness in our players and really work to amplify that and celebrate that. And I think the best example that I've seen this season was Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze had always had cornrows coming in, like last year, his rookie year, then even in Washington, he had cornrows for most of it. This year, he decided to start wearing his afro more often. And the response from fans and my coworkers and the other players, it was all so positive. And that was just him wearing his natural hair. And I think it's one thing to try to celebrate that, but the marketing team actually at the Bears went one step farther. We have a deck of trading cards called Monsters of the Midway cards that we give out to kids or whoever every year. And they had made this year with Rome with his cornrows. And then midway through the season, they actually reprinted Rome's cards to have his afro on the Monsters of the Midway card so that young people can see this card and say like, hey, this is awesome. He's authentically himself. As someone who was once a young black boy in Chicago,
with an afro,
what does it mean to you to see not only the Bears celebrate it, but also little kids are gonna grow up and saying, hey, my hair looks like his?
Your hair is its absolute best how you want it to be, and if it's represented in its natural state, say like an afro, I think that's inspiring. He's wearing an afro in a city where a guy named George Johnson invents afro sheen, right? And so,
Black history.
Black history, right? So he's just following in the footsteps. I believe spaces have an energy that permeate the area, right? And so Chicago starts the organization that gives us Black History Month. Chicago starts a hair care product line that in the 1970s made people feel proud to have an afro, right? And so he's following those footsteps, and I think that's a continuation of allowing people to be their absolute authentic self.
Throughout the season, I've had the pleasure of being on ground zero with the fans. We talked with my piece about Green Bay fans that live in Chicago, and when we talk about places like the Family Den on the South Side, they've been in business for over 40 years. Because of this season, they've experienced a spike in business. We find places like the Staley with Israel Adonijah, they've become staples for Black Bears fans. Dubbed Real Bears Tailgate Crew. They meet at the Waldron Deck Courtyard, right? Every Bears game. This is a Black tailgate crew that I had, the opportunity to hang out with. They fed me, before the game, and it shows that there's a space for Black Bears fans. There's a place for you to watch the game, whether it's Black-owned businesses, whether it's, here at the stadium. From a fan's perspective, it was just beautiful to see the unity that a football team could bring. Bears are truly that force that unites everybody in Chicago.